Red Dead Redemption 2 is a story that is ultimately fairly hopeful. Yes, of course, it has more than its fair share of devastating moments not soon to be forgotten. But through it all, there always seemed to exist just some semblance of hope. Hope that the gang will get a big enough score to start anew. Hope that Arthur will choose the right path in his time left.
I'm afraid.
And finally, hope that John will be able to make the most of his new life given to him by Arthur.
It would mean a lot to me.
This story's consistent presence of hope is paired wonderfully with this game's beautiful world.
This world has its consolations.
Just walking around, the vibrant colors, the beautiful nature, the ambience, the music. It's hard not to be just a little hopeful when getting immersed into a world like this one. On the other hand, its predecessor, Red Dead Redemption, is a game that has no hope. Any hope that does seem to exist is merely an illusion. An illusion that gets painfully ripped away as John is forced to face his end. Not peacefully on a mountaintop, but instead by a hail of gunfire in front of his barn. His death doesn't bring hope, instead destroying it, corrupting his son into the man everyone died trying to stop him from becoming, a degenerate gunslinger with absolutely zero fucking game.
You're doing terrible things to my hormones, miss.
It's no surprise then, really, that Red Dead Redemption 1 chooses to throw you into a world that is repulsive. From the towns to the desert, this game features an atmosphere that perfectly invokes a sense of bleakness, grit, as well as loneliness. An atmosphere that shares more in common with the spaghetti westerns of the 1960s than its own prequel. This is the atmosphere of Red Dead Redemption. Firstly, I have to talk about the overall canvas that Red Dead Redemption 1 paints on, the game's world. Unlike Red Dead Redemption 2, that shows you a wide variety of different environments from turn-of-the-century America, Red Dead Redemption says fuck all that and instead gives you
Sand and more fucking sand.
Now, having your game take place just about solely in the desert is a pretty obvious way to establish the stereotypical gritty cowboy atmosphere. But there's more to it than that. What makes Red Dead Redemption's desert feel so different than the same exact areas in its prequel lies in this game's color grading. Where Red Dead Redemption 2 is clearly going for realism and comes off as fairly colorful, Red Dead Redemption 1 instead has that classic 2000s video game brown filter that makes the entire game look dull and flat. It gives this game a look that I can only describe as being dehydrated. A look that truly invokes to you just how arid and dry this world is, in a way far beyond just having a simple desert setting could've. You can almost feel the sweat and the sand sticking to your skin. It also makes this game's color grading look eerily similar to one of Sergio Leone's old westerns, a similarity that I doubt is purely coincidence. Now, moving on from the big picture, we have this game's towns, which, to put it simply, have fallen behind the times, serving as remnants of a less civilized past. Armadillo, the first real town you visit, can speak for pretty much every other settlement in this game. Wood panels are peeling off all the buildings. Paint is faded out. Utility poles are bent out of shape, and everything looks just a bit too crooked. Now, not only are almost all the towns in this state of disarray, but they also all happen to share crime rates that would give O-Block a run for its money. Criminals firing up in the air as they drag a poor soul by horse. Prostitutes screaming for their lives as they're stabbed to death in broad daylight. Men constantly up for a duel in the middle of the streets. And robberies happening left and right. Overall, these towns do a perfect job at recreating the atmosphere of old westerns and turning them into playable experiences. They end up making you, as an outsider, constantly feel uncomfortable and unwelcomed. They remind you to feel awful just for being alive in such a terrible world. Especially the towns down in Mexico that are suffering from an unending cycle of violence. You also really get a sense of just how gritty, dirty, and lived in this world is. You can almost feel the roughness of the splintered wood planks or the dust that must coat all the surfaces. These towns are a stark contrast to the relative comfiness and reprieve that can be found in most of RDR2's towns. Wandering these towns makes you start to realize that the Wild West isn't dying. No, it's been dead. And what remains is either fading into obscurity or adapting to the times. Speaking of which, we of course have the one town that is the exception to all the things I just mentioned. Blackwater, the place where it all started. Impressive brick buildings, paved roads, lampposts, cars, and an actual law enforcement walking about. Blackwater is a complete 180 from all the other primitive towns. I mean, the place is actually clean. Too clean. Like to an almost unsettling degree. The cleanliness and emptiness makes this town kind of feel like a place you would see in North Korea or a Wolfenstein game. Not to say that Blackwater is some kind of evil dictatorship, but you get the feeling that a facade is being put up here. A feeling that is only furthered by this location's metallic and haunting ambient music. The evils in this town may not be obvious, but they can still very well be felt. Now, you may argue the real reason this town is so weirdly empty is actually because both the PS3 and Xbox 360 had less RAM on them than a fucking Samsung smart fridge. And yeah, I'd honestly agree. The Blackwater in Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably more in line with the vision that Rockstar had for this industrializing town. But whether this was on purpose or not, doesn't really matter. I mean, the same eerie, kinda liminal space atmosphere is created either way. An atmosphere that fits this town like a glove. Now, this game's towns, as important as they are, ultimately only make up a small part of this game's total world. What about the in-between? The space that populates the majority of the map? Well, out here, in the wilds, where the noise of saloon music and preachers preaching ceases, is where this game's most potent feeling is evoked onto the player. The feeling of loneliness. Now, this feeling follows you everywhere, but it's out here, on your quiet ride between towns, where it can be felt the most. It's also out here where this game's ambient music can truly shine, with its sounds of guitar twangs, echoing harmonicas, and lone whistling. A soundtrack that is not only clearly inspired by Ennio Morricone's work, but also does a perfect job at reminding you just how alone John is out here, with its somber tones. There's no camp full of found family members for you to visit, or quests to be done alongside your buddies. You're not going to stumble upon Uncle getting beat up in town. Out here, you have nobody, and you can feel it. Just about every single quest is merely a transaction, usually done for awful people, in the hopes that you can maybe see your family again. With how lonely it can already feel traveling as John, playing as Jack, as you can imagine, is an entirely new level of isolation. And I mean, how could it not be? The boy lost his entire family, basically twice now. The only thing that's left for him is a burning feeling of vengeance, and once that reaches its natural conclusion, he has nothing. I mean, he says it himself.
I've got nothing to live for anyway. Come on, fast!
But hey, who knows? Maybe Jack will meet some familiar friends on his wacky World War I adventures in Red Dead Redemption 3, coming soon. Maybe. While Red Dead Redemption 2 focuses on creating a faithful depiction of old America, Red Dead Redemption 1 instead creates a world based on the myth of the Wild West, as displayed in cinema. Quick draw duels probably weren't happening in town every week. Probably not even every decade. But Red Dead Redemption isn't trying to be realistic. The technology for that didn't really exist at the time. Instead, it's trying to be oppressive. It's a world that matches the tone of this game's depressing story and side quests. A world that John has to not only survive, but has to try and rise above. So yeah, that's it. What do you think? Do you prefer the realism of RDR2's world, or the exaggerated one in RDR1? Thank you for watching, and making it this far in the video. If you want to see more content like this, then make sure to like and subscribe. Peace.